we turn to the role of the state in the educational process. I'm focusing here on university level education for two reasons. First, let's face it, I know a lot more about higher education than I do about K-12. Secondly, one can make an argument that it is the universities that produce the nation's elite. While there are instances of non-university educated folks rising to some political or social power, by and large it is the nation's universities that produce our politically elite class, even if Yale does cough up a real clunker every now and then. Hence, the transition of higher education from an almost exclusively private enterprise to one that is both widespread and fundamentally public is a matter of some interest to us. Yes, the great private institutions are still with us, but as we shall see, no small amount of public money is involved in that sphere, and with money comes influence. The great change in higher education was generally not an ad hoc occurrence. It is true that the Scottish universities were sort of drifting at the end of the 18th century towards the model that eventually got adopted, but it was German educational reform to which the United States looked when the great overhaul started in this country in the 19th century. It is no accident that Johns Hopkins, the first true research university in this country, looked a lot in 1876 like the German universities in Heidelberg and Halle. By the early part of the 20th century, almost all American universities and no few colleges had adopted the German model of higher education. A lot of institutions deliberately forgot the origins of their structure in the anti-German hysteria of World War I, but the fact remains. In one sense, the old model never quite went away. Somebody suggested once, and I can no longer find the source, that American higher education is a German structure built upon English foundations. The foundations being the four-year college dedicated to teaching and the liberal arts. Think the Oberlin Group as an example. The structure or superstructure being the great universities, like Wisconsin, where as much as 40% of the student body is in graduate school, or for that matter, Arizona, where 39% of the degrees awarded in 2009 were above the BA. So the higher education system has enormous influence on society. Is there a higher education liberal bias, as some right-wing types claim? After all, here we are taking the writings of a long-dead commie as our starting point. Or is this course the exception rather than the rule? Is there a consensus here? What do we think all about this?